Chief executive of the PFA is one of the biggest jobs in football, but it's also probably one of the ones that people know the least about. I think because we're touching on it quite a lot, it'd be great just to hear from you what the role of chief executive of the PFA actually is, and by extension, the role of the organisation itself.
I think it's a wonderful question. I think it's needed because even just the fact that we're called a professional football association, it's causing confusion. So people don't know if it's the FA, the PFA. People don't possibly know who is who in the football ecosystem. So in reality, although we're called a professional football association, we should be called the Players Union. Then it will be clear as to what we do. So what we are is a union, meaning that any professional male or female football player in this country would be able to access our services. And this means people from the Premier League, the Championship, League One, League Two, and WSL. So our remit is professional football. And for as much as I'd love to look after the entire world, this is not part of our remit and it's important. So we only look after professional football players. It's a question of the scope of our bylaws, if you wish, but that's the way it is. Because sometimes people are a bit misled, We do not have the ability to make decisions on VAR, because people ask me. So we are the voice of the players in any discussion which affects them. And you say to me, what does this mean? Specifically, it means that on a Monday, I can be talking to Baroness Sue Campbell about women's football. On a Tuesday, I can be talking about mental well-being and how we can support players because there's an issue around, for example, snus consumption. Snus is this tobacco-based product that they put up their kind of lip. The consequence of that is just the gum goes, throat cancer, mouth cancer, and the players are not conscious. And we're talking about a huge amount of them who do that. On a Wednesday, I can be supporting a player which is accused of betting breaches. On a Thursday, I can be talking about EDI and whether we should be taking the knee or not, or whether we should be supporting a player like we did at Crawley to sack the manager who allegedly was racist. On Friday, I can be at UEFA or FIFA to talk about the calendar, which is a massive issue for us. On a Saturday, and I say Saturday because it's relentless. On Saturday, I can be watching a game of an academy player and talking about what will happen if he or she gets released. And on a Sunday, I can finish the week talking to a group of people about dementia in football because we are trying to establish protections for players and help to families who suffer from dementia. So whatever you can think about an issue affecting player, the union is there to represent them and assist them. So the remit is larger than life.
How many players do you represent in total?
55,000 players, which means approximately 5,000 professional players. This is 3,500 senior players and then 1,500 scholars and then 50,000 former players, which is what makes us unique as an organization. Because normally if you're an architect, you're going to be part of the union until you're an architect. If tomorrow you stop, that's it. In our case, if Harry has been 1 minute a professional player in this country, he will receive the same treatment and support than Alan Shearer. The same grants, the same support, the same availability. And this is amazing. But at times it had become a problem because then people don't value what you give them. They take it for granted. It should not be taken for granted. There's no other union that I know of where if you're no longer an active professional, you can still get £50,000 paid into an education scheme or £12,000 paid into a surgery for your knee. It's pretty amazing.
How many people work for the organisation with you?
So when I joined, we were 64. That is 2 years ago. And by the end of 23-24 season, we'll reach the 100 people threshold.
That's tough, right? The distribution of those resources must be very difficult for you because you've got 55,000 players, you've got 60 odd or, increasing up to 100 people that can actually then, manage, as you said, a huge variety of situations and causes. Does that become a problem for you? Or actually based on the engagement and how a lot of the players reach out or how you kind of communicate with them, it fits with the resources that you have?
I'm actually glad I came to this podcast because you're the first person who has actually looked objectively about the situation, made the math, and it doesn't take, much. It's 2 minutes just thinking about what has happened. And I've said, hold on a second. If they have 55,000 members and got 65 employees, you do the ratio yourself. If every single member comes and asks for help, how do you do that? And that's exactly what our main discussion with the stakeholders have been. I think having a strong, well-resourced union is good for the game. And that's why we need the support of the Premier League, we need the support of the EFL, we need the support of the FA to be able to fund the growth of the union to support the players. If it's not the first point on my initial assessment of the PFA, it must be the second point. We are under-resourced as compared to the size of our membership. 100% correct.
If you were to apply a company mindset to this, and obviously I'm an investor for a living for my sins, if your customers adopted your product, the grants, the injury kind of claims that they can have, you would not exist. Because if 15,000 suddenly tomorrow said, great, we're going to take it up, I presume there's not enough cash to fund that. That would be an extraordinary amount of money. How does one think about that? And also, who funds the PFA? Sorry, I'm really naive here.
It's a brilliant question. And I think it has two parts to it. And maybe let me start with the second one, which is what is the funding model? Because then it will inform the response to the second one. And the funding model is one where basically the main source of income we have is a percentage of the TV rights that the Premier League receives, that the EFL receives, and that the FA receives.